The Whitmore estate stood like a monument to power, an American dynasty carved into stone and steel. Generations had walked its marble halls, but today, it was no longer a home. Today, it was a battleground. The matriarch, Eleanor Grace Whitmore, had died. And though the city of New York mourned her as a philanthropist, a business pioneer, and a woman of unshakable presence, her family gathered for something else entirely. Not to grieve, not to honor, but to claim. In the oak-paneled study of her Manhattan law firm, silence reigned. Gold-framed portraits of past Whitmores glared down at the living, as though judging them even now. The heavy grandfather clock ticked in cruel rhythm, each second pulling them closer to the moment of truth. They sat around the polished mahogany table like predators forced into a cage. Richard, the eldest son, leaned back with the arrogance of a man who believed inheritance was his birthright. Catherine, the middle child, perched stiffly, her eyes darting nervously as though searching for her late mother's approval one last time. Michael, the youngest, looked restless, his eyes bloodshot, his tie loose. His life already weighed down by excess, gambling debts, and scandal. Their children sat scattered in the shadows, silent but expectant, their futures dangling in the balance. At the head of the table sat David Harper, the Whitmore family's long-serving attorney. His silver hair gleamed under the chandelier as he placed a thick envelope on the table, adjusting his glasses with solemn precision. "This," he began, his voice steady, "is the last will and testament of Eleanor Grace Whitmore." The words sent a ripple through the room. Spines stiffened, breaths quickened. The very walls seemed to lean in closer. David unfolded the document, his voice now carrying Eleanor's presence into the room. Sharp, calculated, unforgiving. "To my children," the will read, "I leave not what you expect, but what you deserve. Money reveals character, and character is the only fortune that never dies." Richard's smirk widened. Catherine's lips quivered. Michael rolled his eyes, but even he straightened at the sound of his mother's voice beyond the grave. The lawyer continued, "To Richard Whitmore, my eldest, who mistook power for love, I leave $1. May it remind you that fear can never build an empire worth keeping." The room erupted in gasps. Richard's smirk evaporated, his face draining of color. $1? From billions? The humiliation pierced deeper than any wound. "To Catherine, my daughter, who has lived too long in the shadows of others, I leave a trust small enough for modest living. May you find strength not in inheritance, but in your own reflection." Catherine's chest heaved. Years of obedience, of desperate attempts to please, reduced to crumbs. The tears welled but would not fall. Not here. Not in front of them. "To Michael, my youngest, who drowned his gifts in vices, I leave my jewelry collection, not for wealth, but as a mirror to remind you of what you waste when you surrender discipline." A cruel chuckle escaped Michael's lips, but his shaking hands betrayed him. Trinkets. Trinkets in place of a legacy. David paused, glancing at the grandchildren. Hope flickered in their young eyes, desperate for rescue from the wreckage. But Eleanor's words sharpened. "To my grandchildren, I leave nothing, not yet, for wealth given too soon becomes a prison, not a gift. Build your own foundations. Earn what you desire." Silence pressed heavier. Generations erased from the empire with a single stroke of ink. And then came the detonation. "As for the remainder of my estate, my fortune, my companies, my properties, and the Whitmore name itself, I leave it all to Anna Collins." The name fell like lightning into dry grass. Anna Collins. No one in the room recognized it. No daughter.
No granddaughter. No bloodline.
A stranger. The study exploded. Richard shot to his feet, his chair scraping violently against the floor. Catherine's voice cracked in disbelief, demanding answers. Michael laughed bitterly, as if mocking death itself. The grandchildren murmured, their confusion twisting into panic. "Who is she? This is fraud." Mother lost her mind. But David Harper raised his voice above the storm. Mrs. Whitmore anticipated this reaction. She left strict instructions. If you contest this will, you forfeit everything, even what little has been granted. If you want answers, you must discover who Anna Collins is. Eleanor said, and I quote, "Let them discover who they truly are when the money slips away." The words echoed, reverberating in the stunned silence that followed. Eleanor Whitmore had not left them an inheritance. She had left them a test. And as her children sat in the suffocating quiet, rage twisting their faces, one truth became clear. The dynasty of the Whitmores had just been broken. And in the shadows of New York City, a name none of them knew, Anna Collins, held the key to everything. The Whitmore estate became a fortress of fury. The grand dining room, once a place of Eleanor's extravagant dinners, was now a chamber of accusation. Crystal glasses clinked with untouched wine. The portraits of ancestors seemed to sneer down at the living as the heirs faced one another across the table. Richard slammed his fist on the polished wood. "This is fraud. Plain and simple. Some outsider manipulated her. We'll challenge this in court." Catherine flinched at his tone. "And risk losing even the scraps she left us?" The lawyer said if we contest, we forfeit everything. Michael smirked, his voice slurred with whiskey. "What scraps? A trinket trust for you, dollar bills for Richard, jewelry for me. She gave us nothing. Nothing worth protecting." Silence fell. The weight of their mother's words lingered in the air. She hadn't simply written them out of her fortune. She had written them out of her trust, her respect, her legacy. Catherine whispered, barely audible. "She planned this. Every word was deliberate. She wanted to punish us." Richard leaned forward, eyes burning with fury.
No.
"She wanted to test us. And I'll tell you this. I don't care who Anna Collins is. I'll find her. And when I do, I'll prove she manipulated our mother. Then every cent of the Whitmore empire will be mine, as it always should have been." The days that followed were filled with whispers and shadows. Reporters camped outside the estate, hungry for scandal. Newspapers printed headlines, "Whitmore's disinherited. Billionaire fortune left to unknown woman." On Wall Street, Whitmore stock dipped, investors spooked by the chaos at the heart of the dynasty. Inside the family, paranoia spread like wildfire. Catherine retreated into silence, poring over old photographs and letters, searching for any sign of the name Anna Collins. But none appeared. Michael vanished into the city, burning through cash, chasing distractions, his bitterness simmering. And Richard began to move like a predator in the dark. He hired private investigators. He sent men to comb through Eleanor's private records, her travel logs, her medical files. Every detail of her final year became a map to him. Somewhere in that map, he believed, lay Anna Collins. And then the first clue appeared. In Eleanor's study, amid her collection of antique books and meticulously kept diaries, one journal stood out. Its leather was worn, its pages unevenly marked with her sharp handwriting. Inside, Richard found an entry dated just 3 months before her death. "They believe inheritance is a reward. They do not see that wealth destroys as much as it builds. But Anna understands. She sees the value not in fortune, but in principle. Perhaps she is the only one who ever listened." Richard's breath caught. The name was there, not imagined, not forged. His mother had written it with her own hand. Anna Collins. Who was she? His mind raced with possibilities, each darker than the last. If Eleanor trusted this woman above her own children, then Anna Collins was not a stranger. She was a threat. Catherine uncovered her own trail. Receipts from a private hospital in Brooklyn. Visits scheduled in secrecy, away from the Whitmore name, away from family eyes. Each appointment signed off by a physician she had never heard of. And always, in the notes, a small scribbled initial, AC. Could Anna Collins have been her mother's doctor? Or a caretaker who wormed her way into Eleanor's confidence? Michael stumbled onto whispers too. A bartender on the Lower East Side remembered a quiet girl named Anna, who left suddenly when an older woman began visiting her at closing time. Eleanor Whitmore. his mother. The truth burned. The search consumed them. And then, she appeared. Catherine saw her first. On a gray morning in Central Park, feeding pigeons. The girl from the photograph. Anna Collins. And she was smiling, as if she had been expecting this moment all along. That night, Anna Collins walked into the Whitmore mansion. She came alone.
No lawyers.
No protection. Richard, Michael, and Catherine faced her beneath Eleanor's towering portrait. "Your mother trusted me," Anna said calmly. "Not because I wanted her fortune, but because I gave her what you never did. Time, compassion, presence. She left me everything not to enrich me, but to expose you." Richard roared with rage. Michael sneered with venom. Catherine wept with shame. Anna placed a folder of Eleanor's letters on the grand table. "She wrote to each of you, every truth you refused to see." And one by one, the Whitmores heard their mother's judgment. Richard, condemned for mistaking power for love. Catherine, for losing herself in shadows. Michael, for drowning in vices. And then the final letter. To Anna. "Anna, my true heir, you are not bound to me by blood, but by choice. You gave me what my children would not. You reminded me that legacy is not wealth, but character. I leave you my fortune not to enrich you, but to test them." Anna closed the letter. Her eyes lifted. She didn't disinherit you because she stopped loving you. She disinherited you because you stopped loving her. The words shattered them. Richard's pride collapsed. Michael's smirk vanished. Catherine sobbed uncontrollably. Anna turned to leave, but her final words cut deeper than any wound. "She left me more than her fortune. She left me her secret. And when you learn what it is, you will never look at the Whitmore name the same way again." The revelation came weeks later. The secret was not hidden money, nor hidden crimes. It was Eleanor's confession. Her empire, vast and glittering, had been built not on privilege, but on sacrifice, betrayal, and mistakes she had spent her life trying to correct. She had left Anna the tools to redirect her wealth, not into more greed, but into compassion. Shelters, scholarships, hospitals. The fortune became a weapon for justice. The Whitmores were left with nothing but themselves. And in the end, that was the greatest punishment of all. Months later, the Whitmore mansion stood dark and abandoned. Richard waged legal wars that drained him into obscurity. Michael vanished into addiction, a ghost of his former self. Catherine found herself in a Brooklyn shelter, quietly volunteering where her mother once had, perhaps her first step toward redemption. And Anna Collins? She rebuilt Eleanor's empire, not as a monument of greed, but as a legacy of compassion. Eleanor's final words became prophecy. Character is the only currency that never loses value. And the Whitmores were bankrupt,